However, we will still have to fight our enemies at some point. To this end, I've ordered the construction of several super heavy class weapons. This is a super heavy mortar. For reference, here it is next to our previous generation of artillery, and now here it is turning a group of goblins into fertilizer. So, yeah, we also have this. I know it looks like a tank, but it's actually a Morse code transmitter. The signal is carried by a 40-pound high-explosive shell. The receiver is located somewhere inside this man's gray matter, and the message is death.
I'm not gonna lie, he had me in the first part. I was like, huh? Is it like a SATS thing? No, it's not. Welcome back to another Neko Reacts. Have you ever thought of how you would survive Armageddon? Let's see how Reggie does. Ooh. Oh god.
Gentlemen, I have one question. When you visualize Warhammer, do you see machine gun nests mowing down hordes of the undead? Maybe war zeppelins dropping bombs on confused Frenchmen? Or even thousands of soldiers simultaneously suffering from trench foot? Well, you should, because today we're going to be using the technology and tactics of a certain 20th century military power to conquer the world. But having both of our feet amputated will be the least of our concerns, because on turn 100, chaos portals will open all over the map, unleashing thousands of demons with an intense desire to consume our vital organs. Can we become a
I'm just gonna make a quick disclaimer. I've never played Warhammer, so I'm jumping in this blind. I don't know who Reggie is, and I've never played Warhammer. So whether or not this sells me on the game, we'll see.
military superpower and overcome this cataclysmic event? Or will we be subjugated by our demonic overlords? There's only one way to know. Here we are in the lovely old world. It's very much the same, except Karl Franz is now an ultra-nationalist and he's wearing a pickle hob. Normally, the Empire operates as a collection of city-states that eventually confederate through a series of popularity contests. It's a little like democracy, which is nice, because democracy is a system by the people and for the people.
But the people are retarded.
And I don't
expecting to see that clip today, and yet here we are.
We don't have time for such political machinations, so instead we'll be doing all of our diplomacy with the business end of a machine gun. We start by introducing ourselves to our neighbors, hello and goodbye. I know these tactics might seem excessive, but we need to aggressively develop our empire if we want to have any—
Look, if you want to have any influence over a modern world or a growing world, dominate everything and then make the decisions for yourself. I see nothing wrong with this logic.
Any hope of surviving Armageddon, because I may have put it on max difficulty. With our first enemy defeated, we can now recruit some conscripts. They're our weakest unit, and they're also preposterously expensive. But with a bit of focus fire, they can assassinate enemy generals in one volley. So, not bad. Clearly, we're going for quality over quantity. Our campaign started off quite well. We bounced around Reichland, liberating settlements from the tyrannical Polish menace. So impressive was our blitzkrieg that—
If anyone knows how to pronounce that name, kudos. I tip my hat to you. I respect you.
Beast Wizard wanted to join the army. I know he may appear to be some kind of homeless schizophrenic, but he's actually just your average Los Angeles man. So I let him join our crusade.
No, he looks like your average American, specifically your Southern American. There's a difference.
Now, in an effort to immediately bankrupt my own government, I decided to start building a second army led by the legendary General Wilhelm von Zollernholm. And yes, I did Google that name to see if he was associated with any genocides. Surprisingly, he was not. Wilhelm is great because unlike Karl, his talent tree actually buffs our modern units. And you better believe I'm going to specialize him entirely into tank warfare. But we don't have any tanks yet. In fact, all we have—
This game actually has tank warfare. You just have to get to it. You just have to get to a point where you can use it. So I love how he's genuinely starting from zero just to use World War I tactics.
Have our people who wanted to be here slightly more than they wanted to be in a military prison. So let's get back on track. After finishing off the Empire secessionists, we received a quest to defend this beach from an amphibious landing of Vikings. Unfortunately for the Vikings, the beach they are landing on is Normandy Beach, because we have just unlocked light machine gun nests. And as you may imagine, a band of naked Norwegians is no match for the 1,200 rounds per minute coming out of these guns.
Just the thought of like a bunch of naked people trying to take on that many guns is insane to me. Is there no like, what's the word called? Like white flag mechanic, like a surrender mechanic for the opposing teams? The opposing side, apologies? I feel like that's a necessity.
After completing our revisionist history
feel
at
like that's a
Normandy, I decided to
necessity.
declare war on Emil von Corden.
Whoa.
Why would I do
Already?
that? Because no one can stop me. Emil's
God.
forces were difficult to defeat because there were
So he
2,500
knows what
of
he's
them.
doing.
But
Okay.
now there's not. This gives
We
us
have the
ownership
high
over one of the
ground.
mountain passes, which will help us control our borders,
Never
especially when the
underestimate the high
demons arrive.
ground.
While this was going on, Wilhelm was starting up a war on the Eastern Front, and things were going pretty well. However,
Well, if you just let everyone fight with each other and then keep like slowly grinding and getting better and better and better, just challenge the strongest dude and claim all the land that they had claimed. Survival of the fittest. It's like when a shark eats a fish and then something eats a shark. You know.
we were starting to run into some growing pains. As it turns out, ignoring your faction's game mechanics in favor of ultra-violence is not a wise decision, because after declaring war on 2 people just for fun, everyone thinks I'm
Just for
clinically
fun.
insane and our popularity is plummeting. Much like a
no.
high school
No one
girl,
wants to
without
be a part of
popularity,
it.
Karl's empire starts to physically decompose. So to correct this economic tailspin, we need to increase our approval rating. To
They
achieve that,
actually
we
need
will
to
stop fighting
befriend people.
humans and instead focus on killing
Yeah. Oh, if you could leave a like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
creatures of the night, such as the
Got
elderly.
it.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
Eben von
The el-
Leibowitz didn't get this memo, and he attacked Wilhelm with 3,000 units. Now,
Oh my
machine guns are very
God.
strong, but as it turns out, they have their limitations, and we got absolutely massacred. This was a
Oh.
small but detectable setback in our
balls
plans.
to
With
run
my
up
army
to that
destroyed,
many.
Durthu took the opportunity to demand financial restitution from us, despite the fact I've
Okay.
never even talked to him before. I'll be
Oh my
honest, it
God.
really damages my confidence to be successfully extorted by sentient plant matter, and I won't be forgetting this. But
The fact that these creatures are actually in-game things makes this game 10 times better.
for now, we can't afford another war. Now, it's not all
Oh my
bad,
God.
because the Beastmen just
Capitalism
completed their
with
end of a
monsters.
suicide pact by running headfirst into my capital, and this gave us a nice little chunk
Oh
of
my
change.
gosh.
In fact,
We
money
love
is at a bit of a
democracy.
premium in my empire, because if I want to recruit a super heavy tank, it's
We
going to
need
cost
it.
me thousands of gold. Fortunately, I found a few ways to make
2,600
money. For
gold. How long
example,
does
I
that
struck up a
take?
trade deal with this lovely wood elf lady.
Don't tell. But I think
Yeah. A lovely wood elf. Mm-hmm.
I want to kill her.
Why?
Aside from that, we've just been completing quests, trading
Why
with the
would you want
Chinese,
to
and
kill
stealing
her?
Heinrich Kemmler's social security checks. Speaking of Heinrich, the war is going quite well.
Oh my
Much like the
God.
Beastmen, he fell into the trap of driving himself into a wood chipper.
Wait, so is he just starting a war, setting up the battle, and then just walking away and collecting finances from everyone? That is genius tactics. I love
At
this.
300 kilometers per hour. And since then, I've been using light tanks to carve
Oh my
my way
God.
through his territory. Truly, there is no
Smart.
cleaner pleasure than watching machine gun fire tear into hordes of the undead.
Yeah,
Our
they're-
campaign
that's a
culminated in the
great-
siege of Castle
That's a
Artois.
great
It was kind of
thing.
awkward because we have almost no melee units, and we can't really shoot them effectively from this angle. So I
Oh.
settled on using some breaching charges to open the castle gates.
Oh,
From here, I just let
that
my
works.
tanks sit down in front of the door and shoot anyone who attempted to
so
move from here to
mean.
here. It was a little like Red Rover, except the stakes were a lot higher because angry
It's
Germans are
just-
shooting at you with machine guns. Eventually, we
It's literally just angry Germans taking over castles with with tanks. I love
won,
this.
but clearly, I'm going to have to invest in some heavy artillery going forward. At this
Oh my
point, all of our
God.
initial enemies are dead, so it's a good time to assess our position in the world. It's turn 33.
Holy.
We occupy a thin band of regions along
That's
the
a
southwest.
lot.
I was hoping to have the entire empire conquered by
Oh my
turn 40,
God.
so it's safe to say we're a little behind
He's-
schedule, but I'm confident that
That's
our rapidly
quick
developing
progress,
military
though.
technology will help us catch up. For example, Wilhelm recently acquired a new mount. Is it a horse or even a dog sled pulled by children? No, it's a bulletproof Mercedes-Benz with a machine gun mounted on the roof. I'd like to see
Oh.
Vlad von Karstein compete with
Okay.
this. Speaking of
That's
Vlad,
an
he's going to be our
interesting
next
design.
target. He owns
It's like someone took a horse and carriage and got rid of the horse, gave it an engine, and ripped off the top. I can see how that would possibly work. Okay.
a lot of
okay.
territory, and unfortunately for him, most of the Geneva conventions do
Oh my
not apply
God.
to reanimated corpses, so I should lose no popularity by eviscerating him with hundreds of landmines. However, the orcs were blocking my path
already.
into Sylvania, so I had to grapple with the serious moral dilemma of whether I should shoot them to death
This is
or
great.
cover them in napalm. I
Oh
chose both.
my
It was all going very
God.
well, because the orc military philosophy
Look, the napalm is crowd control. Shooting is just managing the numbers, right? right?
Consists exclusively of screaming and running headfirst into
my
bullets.
God.
The
Look,
undead
they're
were
orcs,
experiencing
it
a
doesn't
similar
matter.
issue.
Convention
Usually they
doesn't
throw
apply.
bodies at you
They're
until
not
you become
human.
exhausted. But luckily for us, bullets do not get tired. The only
Yeah,
problem we
bullets don't
ran
get
into
tired.
was that the ghosts are ethereal, so roughly half of our bullets go right through them. But I am a firm believer in just shooting them twice as
Keep
much. So we
shooting.
plowed forward, capturing Grenstadt.
When in doubt, shoot it out. No matter what, just keep firing. It'll work somehow. Somehow it will work out and you'll be fine.
Schwarzhaven, and Fort Obersteyr. And just as my military conquest was about to send me over the edge into an
insane.
erection-induced coma,
Oh my
tragedy
God.
struck. Clan Scryer declared war on me. It's alright though, they're strength rank 21 and we're rank 2, so surely they won't invade me with 3 armies, you son of a bitch. You look like a smart guy, so I probably don't have to tell you, but this
How?
is really bad. Because
Yeah,
for
that
every
looks
skaven
bad.
we can see, there are probably 10 that we can't. With all of my generals tied up in the east, Icket Claw had a fantastic time.
Okay, so he's got tanks and heavy artillery and guns, but they have weird deformed monster looking things. I don't know how that's gonna play out.
Time detonating nuclear devices on my peasant militias. To make the situation even more embarrassing, the orcs actually started defeating us by changing their army composition. Did they also
Really?
develop heavy machine guns, you may ask? Nope, not even
Wait.
close. They just put themselves on pigs and drove into my gun line really fast. The only
That's
silver
actually
lining to all
really
of this was that
smart. Wait, so the NPCs have an adaptation system? They adapt to the situation and change accordingly? This is so much more thorough than I thought. I love this.
I
love
convinced
games like
Balthazar Gelt to
this.
confederate with me, which expanded my borders considerably. Naturally,
my
this
God, that's
decimated my
huge.
economy because AI build their empires in the same way a recently lobotomized man builds a helicopter, which is to say, not very well. Anyway, after sorting that out, I sent Gelt back to deal with the Skaven.
Note
And
to
since
self,
he is a
don't
wizard
build a
of metal, I
helicopter.
gave him some very
Just don't.
heavy
Don't
metal
even
to work
attempt.
with. Aside from that, Wilhelm went on a paid vacation
my
to the
God.
lovely city of Skavenblight to burn it to the ground and stomp on the ashes. Our cap
I love how calmly Reggie is just describing how he's liberating and conquering multiple areas, literal people, monsters, you name it. He's just like, so anyways, I went from this point to that point and now I'm here and we're gonna do this and and now I have tanks all of a sudden. I can definitely see how people love his videos. It's wonderful commentary and it's actually quite entertaining.
capture of Skavenblight could be compared to cutting the head off the chicken
And
that
for
is
some
Clan
reason, I
Scryer.
know
The
what
issue
I'm
is that the
talking
body
about.
is still thrashing
With a
around
game
and
I've never
shitting all over
played.
my territory. However, after 10 turns and several doses of lorazepam, we
Oh
had
my
finally
God.
finished them off. In their place, I
The Razapam is triggering so many memories for me. Oh gosh.
installed several puppet governments that were loyal to me. I can't be everywhere at
Okay,
once,
we're
but having
fine.
multiple semi-competent allies spread across the map should be enough. At this point, my blood pressure was finally starting to normalize again,
Yeah,
so
because
obviously
you've
the
conquered,
ogres
like,
decided to rectify that by declaring war
half
and
the
attacking me with 3 gigantic armies.
continent?
At this moment, the game expects me to just roll over and accept my dick flattening like a good boy, but I said no. I'm fighting this battle,
He's
and
not
I'm
a
not
good
going to stop
boy,
pissing
okay.
myself until I win. We took up a defensive position atop this hill, and I started skirmishing with my
The best part about all of this so far is that he just doesn't care. He doesn't care about the fact that his strength number estimate by the game standard is lower than literally anyone else's in the game. And he's just like, I don't care. I have tanks.
tanks. The ogre race is an exciting experiment in determining just how much fat a body can accommodate before it ruptures at the seams, which
Yeah,
makes them
it's
incredibly
gonna
easy to
explode.
shoot with a rifle. Even better than that, I found I could use my tanks to blob the enemies
Oh my
up,
God.
at which point my heavy
This
machine
can't
guns would
read.
start tearing them apart. It was a bit of a messy process, but eventually we managed to
It's messy
shoot,
because
bludgeon,
they're
and explode the
huge.
ogres to death. As a thank you to Scrag for being
Oh
such
my
a
God.
good sport about the whole ogre genocide thing, I decided to travel into his territory, burn his castle down, and install a xenophobic city-state in its place. Now back to business. Vlad von Karstein is
That is like rubbing more than just salt into a wound, and I'm here for it.
technically still alive, but his empire is dying, so we're going
I
to
love
administer
it.
some end-of-life care by
Yeah.
caving in his cranium.
Well, we just
This was
have to
fairly
pull the
easy
plug.
because I now have access to
Yeah.
pioneer infantry, which can construct razor wire, MG nests,
Whoa.
mortars, and anti-aircraft bunkers
That's
for free. It
insane.
takes a lot of time, but the undead aren't exactly in a hurry. In
No,
fact,
they're
they're
not.
having a hard time moving at all because Wilhelm upgraded his mount, and he's now
my
flying above the
gosh.
battlefield in a war
He
blimp,
has a
dropping
blimp.
cinder blocks and lawn darts on our enemies as they approach. Excited
so
by the idea
cool.
of Blimp's supremacy, I decided to recruit several
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining a blimp in World War I, and the thought is so funny to me.
Imperial war blimps to help me clean up some Viking
Literal
villages.
war
They're stronger,
blimps.
considerably more phallic, and each one has 10 bombs they can deploy for massive damage.
That's
The
a lot.
Norwegians attempted to counter this by throwing axes into the sky.
that's
Not
not
only did
gonna
this
work.
tactic not work, it actually made me bomb them even harder. At this point, I've managed to narrow down what the actually good units are, and things are starting to
This
move
whole
pretty
narrative
fast.
is
Some
just
orcs declared
skish
war on
you,
us. We beat
skish
the
you,
daylights
skish
out of
you.
poor Festus, hired the Red Baron, who was apparently a melee specialist, despite being in a biplane, killed some wood elves while
You know what? Maybe if he crashes, he just like comes out guns blazing. You know, he's just hands at the ready. He's ready to give them what they need. A knuckle sandwich.
no one was looking, used rocket launchers to defeat Pope Francis in
Oh
a
my
quest
God.
battle, and most importantly, we implemented government-mandated crystal meth for all of my soldiers, which is clearly evident by the way
No
my
way.
machine gunners are currently tweaking out in between volleys. At this point, it's turn
he can't
70,
do that,
and we
right?
control almost all Empire territory. Our only active enemies are the
Right.
Norskins, the Orcs, and some British guy. However, the
British-
Chaos Invasion will be coming soon, so it's time to start preparing. One of the most dangerous components of
Well,
the
I know
invasion
who's
is that it
next.
spawns chaos portals all over the world, which is like an open invitation for
That's
demons to remove your
crazy.
limbs. My plan is to construct several of these buildings
you
across my
control
territory. They prevent chaos
the
rifts from
chaos
spawning, and if I pull this
portals?
off just right, we will be the only faction in the
I love how I walked into this video expecting a real-time, casual, World War sim, and there's like magic and orcs and everything in between, the undead, and I'm like, what? What's going on?
entire world that isn't immediately decimated
Oh my
by hordes
God.
of demons. Now, I like
Yeah,
my
we don't
plan,
want
and it
that.
should buy us some time. However, we will still have to fight our enemies at some point. To this
Yeah.
end, I've ordered the
have to
construction of
prepare.
several super heavy class weapons. This is a super heavy mortar. For reference, here it is
super
next
heavy
to our
mortar.
previous generation of artillery, and now
Oh.
here it is turning a group of goblins into fertilizer. So, yeah, we also have this. I know it looks like a tank, but
That's
it's
a lot.
actually a Morse code transmitter. The signal is carried by a 40-pound high explosive shell. The receiver is located somewhere inside this man's gray
Yeah.
matter, and the message is death.
Oh! I'm not gonna lie, he had me in the first part. I was like, huh? Is it like a SATS thing? No, it's not.
Finally, the Imperial Sky
Oh my
Destroyer.
gosh,
I haven't
I
even
can't
used
believe
this
I
one
fell
yet,
for
but it
that.
cost me 20,000 gold to recruit and another 5,000 for
That's
upkeep. So I'm hoping this will be our secret weapon against the apocalypse.
secret
While my new
weapon?
units were
It's
recruiting, I
huge.
spent
What do
the
you
next couple of
mean?
turns testing out different weapons. Here are some of my favorites. A mobilized anti-aircraft gun. It's fairly good at killing flying units, but I prefer to use it to execute political prisoners
It's
at
like a
close range.
spray.
Helicopters. They're quick, fire explosive rockets, and you can land them to refuel their ammo. Very
dude,
cool.
that's
Finally, we
sick.
have colonial infantry. Each one can build 3 dirt walls that provide them cover and prevent the enemy
Ooh.
from advancing. Of
That's
course, it doesn't
smart.
take long for you to realize you can abuse this mechanic to instantly
Oh my
create an
God.
impenetrable fortress of dirt that puzzles even the most intelligent chaos
I
giants.
love that it's literally just dirt, and yet somehow he's completely impenetrable.
You may be wondering how I experimented with all these war machines. Quite simple, really. I took them across the water and found that the Vikings were very willing to let me test my weapons on them. And by very
Yeah.
willing, I mean they weren't able to stop me. Turns out it wasn't climate change that killed the mammoth, it was natural predators, such as carnivorous flights of biplanes. Anyway,
Yeah.
our extensive research and
Carnivorous
development
biplanes
program was actually generating us a
terrible.
lot of money, and the Empire had entered into something of a golden age. Wars were going well, money was flowing, and the Empire was blossoming. Basically,
He
there has
knows
never
what
been a
he's
better
doing.
time to be a citizen living in the Empire.
Yeah. Oh.
So,
Oh, wait. Chaos, more chaos, suckling at teats of chaos, hordes growing, a dam breaking, a tide of ruin. Okay, and the end is nigh. Okay. Yep, I understand everything. Hell.
Doom is
God
coming.
has abandoned us.
Destroying all in its path. The end
Yeah,
is nigh.
the end.
You know what? Don't worry about that. I'm sure it's fine. On a completely
It's
unrelated
fine.
note, I'm going to start drafting a few thousand people into the army now. We're on the
my
final
God.
stretch at this point, and I'm just getting everything
He's like,
prepared. I
we don't
imagine
need
the
that.
literal apocalypse
go
may
recruit
slightly influence the
couple
Empire
thousand.
stock market, so I've saved up plenty of cash, recruited extra
Oh my
armies,
God,
and set up
6
2
gold.
layers of walls in all of my settlements. I finished out the next 10 turns fairly
So, is there a way to actually survive the end? I guess I'm gonna find out by the end of the video, but I might as well ask now because I'm really curious. How many of you actually have played this game? Is it fun? Do you enjoy it? Are you this crazy?
relaxed. The only excitement was when we were attacked by Leopold Wolf. For those of you who don't know, Mr.
Leopold!
Wolf is an avid collector of traumatic brain injuries.
Oh,
How
we
do I
should
know
keep
this?
him.
Because I'm the one giving them to him. I don't know much about him, but he's very
I don't
upset
think we
that
can
I
keep
own the
him
moot.
anymore.
And every 5 or 10 turns he shows up and starts screaming at me about taking the moot pill.
Okay, but why can't he just, you know, adopt him? And then put him in like his own little, you know, moat area so he can just chill and be himself.
I don't know what that means, so naturally
I don't know
I
what it
shot
means
him with an
either.
anti-tank rifle. Other than that, we
Why
were
an
ambushed by a large
anti-tank?
quantity of ogres. In case you are wondering, this is what a man's face looks like when he knows he's about to be spit roasted by murderous
Oh.
fat men. Actually, never mind.
That's
I was giving
insane.
General
Okay.
Booger too much credit. But then again, it's hard to command your troops when you are dead. I took this
Yeah.
incursion as an opportunity to use my flamethrowers to
The diversity in this game is absolutely mind-boggling. Wow. It would take me at least a couple days just to get the basics down if I were to try this game. I'm not gonna lie.
carve up the ogre kingdom and
can see
redistribute
how
it to my
Warhammer's
vassal. I
popular,
know this
though.
may
This
seem
is
like an
insanely
overly
addicting.
violent solution to an
Oh.
otherwise mundane problem, but when you are a walking tank of napalm, suddenly every problem looks like a Vietnamese rice farmer. Turn 99, things are good. Our southern border is protected by several military allies. The north is
still
protected by
using
Kislev and the
napalm.
tree people, and everything else is protected by this. I went to sleep on turn 99 with a smile on my face, feeling safe and secure, but suddenly
my God.
dark and twisted visions crept into my mind.
Ugh.
Eldritch abominations, legions of chaos warriors, and above
Like,
all else, one
the
very
end?
angry little man. I
Oh my
woke up in a
God.
cold sweat, frantically searching around my empire for the chaos invasion, but it's fine. There's nothing
didn't
here.
happen.
Oh wait. Nope.
Oh,
There it is. There are a total of 75 fully leveled hostile chaos armies on the map. And
Oh
as it
my
turns out, they're
God.
hosting a destination wedding in Altdorf because they're all headed straight for me. Truly, it is time to summon
so while he took a break or stepped away or quote unquote went to sleep, they literally said, all right, get the troops ready. Surround the map. We're going straight to the center. I'd be so stressed out.
the Elector Counts. Actually,
Huh?
never mind. They're all dead and we killed them.
What?
Well, at least our preparations worked and we have no chaos portals in our territory, so that should buy us some
did I
time.
build that up
Anyway,
so
good luck to
dramatically?
everyone
I
else.
didn't know
Now,
this was
first
gonna
things first,
happen.
Festus has willed himself back into existence, and he also brought
Festus
10
is
of his
alive.
friends from the homeless shelter to come kill
my
me.
God.
However, I anticipated this and brought 8 of my friends.
Uncle Fester, you're supposed to be back in the Bermuda Triangle. Why are you here? We got rid of you the first time.
Which means the ultimate battle between modern firepower and
my
disgusting
God.
freaks is about to unfold.
Ugh,
I kicked
they
it
do
off
look
with 4 of my
nasty.
best armies against 4 of theirs. We deployed our forces and began setting up on the high ground. I was worried they might
my
rush us,
God.
but there appeared to be some gentleman's agreement
That's
that we would both
insane.
wait for our reinforcements to arrive. This is what that looked like on my side.
Oh my
Howitzers, tanks, machine guns, armored cars, blimps, and of
That's
course,
accurate.
a shitload of infantry. On their
Yep.
side, whatever this is. We were in a bit of a standoff by this point, but fortunately only one of us had chemical weapons, and surprisingly it wasn't Festus.
Goblin.
So I began pounding my enemies with poison-filled
God.
shells. This achieved some level of neuron activation, and they started plowing across the field.
It's like it's like they took the mob goblins from Breath of the Wild, put them in this game, twisted their bodies a little, and just made them absolutely grotesque.
Toward me. Our lines were very neatly formed, and we were picking hundreds of them off with each volley. But
Oh my
within
God.
minutes, it was absolute chaos.
What
Giant
is
insects
that?
chasing down heavy
Oh my
tanks,
God.
danger close artillery, blimps erupting into flames, giant balls
no.
of molten lead plowing
Whoa.
across the battlefield, and most importantly, a
That's
very
insanity.
unfortunate amount of men being hacked apart by great axes. Luckily, we were able to volley fire the enemy
Oh, whoa.
leadership until they more closely
God.
resembled a spaghetti strainer than a human being. And with that taken care of, the Chaos Forces began to fold. After about 18 minutes, they were in
gosh.
full retreat, and the post-battle screen looked like this.
I'm sorry, what? Deployed 1.2k roughly. Lost 1.1. What? That's a lot.
We completed this routine
That's a
3 more
lot.
times to kill Festus and eliminate his faction. It was
Why
a
did
victory for
Festus come back
mankind,
so
but one
strong?
thing has become clear. This is not sustainable. My armies are in shambles, and there's still 50 Chaos Legions barreling down
Oh
on
my
us.
God.
Fortunately, we do have a chance. You
He
see, when I
needs
enabled
more.
this endgame crisis, I toggled a setting called Faction Doom. Basically, the Chaos factions are incredibly strong. However, if we can manage to defeat their main general in combat, the rest of their empire will start to crumble. So I don't have to fight all of this, I just have to
okay.
find
So it's kind of like you just have to take out the most important parts of the body, for lack of better words. So you take the brain, you take the heart, you take the liver, the kidneys, you know, and then the body just dies. That makes a lot of sense, actually, because let's say you just randomly took away a president and he just kind of poofed. Mayhem, absolute chaos and mayhem would ensue, and then the economy would crash. I love this.
and kill each leader before it's too late. Our first target, Archaon.
Oh
He's
my
the strongest
gosh.
faction and also in a
Yep.
surprisingly vulnerable position. I
he's
used
the
Festus's portal to
strongest.
take Karl, Gelt, and Claude Dogburglar.
Dog
Okay, whatever. I
burglar.
teleported them across the map and started
I'm
the
gonna
battle with
keep my
Archaon.
dogs
He was
away.
very strong,
Okay.
but I have yet to find a man who was able to withstand being shot by 1900
flaming
rifles. So
horse!
anyway, he died. And next turn we had our proof of concept, because he
That's
went from being
sick.
strength rank 1 to rank 89, and all of his
Ooh.
armies are disappearing.
Oh,
1 down,
no.
6 to go. After defeat
If you just pit them I wonder, can you pit them against each other? Or are they all in arms? Like, are they all in agreement with each other? Do they all have treaties and such? Because if you could just pit them against each other, take out the strongest and let the second one try to take over the strongest area, and they'll just keep fighting. They'll just keep fighting and get rid of themselves for you and make conquest so much easier.
Defeating Archaon, I decided to close the Chaos Portal that he used to teleport here.
Yeah.
To do this, we had to complete a moderately challenging
to do a
battle against the
rift?
demons of Khorne. But after we beat the teenage angst out of them, we were able to close the
We had to
portal and
get
claim a
rid of
reward.
Khorne.
I took this ridiculously strong sword
That was such a sly little hook in there. The teenage angst with corn. I love it.
that will probably corrupt my mind and turn me into a sadistic lunatic, and I'm
Oh.
okay with that. In fact,
Okay.
each type of portal seems to give you a different reward. Khorne gives you access to extremely powerful
blood
items.
god.
Nurgle
Okay.
gives all of your armies
The
poison
plague.
attacks and attrition resistance.
Okay.
Siege provides empire-wide buff.
So closing rifts, or well, defeating a rift, makes your people less human. I'm noticing. There's a trend here.
And removes fog of
There-
war,
there-
and
there's a
finally
trend.
Slaanesh gives you laughably high casualty replenishment
Oh,
and
God.
empire growth at the cost of spreading their filthy corruption. This reward
Oh.
mechanic isn't very narratively important, but I
don't
think it's a
think I
nice
would
touch, and
spread
I like
corruption.
it. Anyway, our next target was Sigvald, accidentally.
Oh my
You see, I
gosh!
tried closing this other
It's
chaos
Prince
portal,
Charming
but I
from
fell
Shrek.
into it and got teleported directly to Sigvald's femboy empire, an empire which was
The Fempire.
remarkably unprepared for Blimp supremacy. I felt
don't know why I
bad
paused
shooting
for
such
that.
a beautiful man to death,
Maybe I'll
but
put a
dare I
reverb
say,
on it.
he looks even better now. By this point, Azazel's forces were starting to invade from the
I'm so
north.
sorry,
it took them
Athena.
only 2 turns to kill all of Kislev, and I really don't like the way they're looking at me.
I'm so
Most
sorry.
of my main armies have been dispatched across the world to hunt down chaos generals,
Oh my
so I'm
gosh.
stuck defending
I
my
love
territory
this.
with these micro armies. They looked good on
Micro
paper,
army.
but suddenly I feel unprepared. Anyway, the fastest way for me to stop this will be to
You know, when I look at a giant horse with lava and fire on it, I too kind of start thinking I might not be enough.
kill Azazel, so I sent 2 armies up the river to
Oh
look
my
for him, and we didn't
gosh.
have to look very hard because he attacked us on the next turn. It's
Oh
not
my
looking
gosh.
good, but what the auto-resolve seems to be
He
forgetting
was
is that
looking
this
for
is
you
my
too.
main tank regiment, and as it turns out, no amount of horniness can protect you from
Oh.
having your limbs blown off in an explosion. And furthermore, Azazel
Take note, no matter how horny you are, a bullet's still a bullet.
His tactic of throwing himself under my tank treads
Oh my
was
God!
questionable at
That's
best. With Azazel
insane.
defeated and his ecstatic
He just
legion in
ran him
disarray,
over.
we've bought ourselves some time. For my
That's
next magic
4
trick, I will be making
down.
Valkia the Bloody disappear. I took
Yep.
Blimp Boy through the
She's
Chaos
gone.
portals again and managed to
I'm sorry, but if your title is Gore Queen, that just means you're consistently on your period, and is it really worth living at that point? Is it really worth living? Just surrender. Just surrender and go back to whence you came. It's not worth it.
To land right next to her. She had a lot more units than me, but she's having a very hard time getting them through this choke point while I drop bombs on it. This is what we call a skill issue. Anyway, Valkia was absolutely seething at the fact that she forgot to bring ranged units to a blimp battle, so I had free reign to basically do whatever I want.
Blimp.
With her defeated, we just have 3 to go. Kolek, Wulfric, and Village. Speaking of Village, his faction is absolutely mopping the floor with the Chinese, as evidenced by the fact I am looking at a map of Cathay with only one Cathay in settlement. Anyway, I sent Gelt and Dogburglar through a portal.
I'm looking at a map of Cathay, but also they only have one place. So it's really not theirs anymore. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take it.
To chase Village down, but he got the drop on us at Dragon's Gate, and it's not looking so good. We did our best with the basic infantry, but they're remarkably squishy and don't hold up so well against return fire. Also, this creature exists and is doing horrible, horrible things to anyone on.
Can you have those things? Like, can you get to a point in the game where you also have these insane looking monsters? Because after defeating a rift, you become less human. So I'd assume that at some point in the game, you can also have giant beasts, right? If you can't, then why not?
Lucky enough to survive the enemy's ranged attacks. I tried everything,
insane.
Magic, bombs, even tried burning it like an
They're
ant with this high-powered magnifying glass.
You have a literal
Didn't work.
priest.
Our winning streak was officially over. I suppose it's true what they say. Don't send a boy to do a blimp's job. By abusing the very same chaos portals the demons created, I was able to teleport my blimp army directly into the heart of Village's kingdom. And thanks to some questionably balanced units, we were back in the win column. But our territory was still beset by a bunch of miscellaneous freaks, and they're starting to corrupt the environment, which is itself spawning rebel armies. But that's alright, there's just Kolek and Wulfric left. I actually found Wulfric in a very vulnerable position on my northern shores. Alone, and with almost no troops under his command, I dispatched 4 of my—
Why would you do that? Why would an NPC do that? You have an adaptation system and you decide to take, like, what, 8 men with you? No!
militias to deal with him, but perhaps sensing the noose tightening, he, let's just say, deleted himself. I don't know why, but he was there one turn and dead the next. You can blame it on a freak accident.
Wait. I'm sorry, I'm processing. I need to process this. The NPCs, can they actually do that? Did he actually just delete himself? That's insane!
Or a bad horoscope, but personally, I don't care. On to Kolek. In case you couldn't tell, Kolek is fairly dangerous. He wields a hammer the size of 6 grown men, and I have personally never seen him cry even once. We attacked him just outside of Cathay with what's left of our army. We have about 5 units of riflemen, a few blimps on life support, and whatever random regiments of renown I could anxiously recruit before the battle. Kolek's army was composed of 5 units of hell cannons, and basically everyone else was some variation of a person who would like to crush your skull beneath their bare foot. The battle was on, and I breathed a sigh of relief, because my siege weapons had longer range than his. But as it turns out, Kolek must be a top, because he did not appreciate being pounded. It's all the same to me though, because with his cannons
Look, sometimes tops just don't want it, and other times they do. He could be a switch. You never know, especially if you own him, you know?
destroyed, I can now safely deploy my blimps into the... Oh. Okay, so I guess I missed one. Anyway, after a little more shelling, we were back on track. Kolek's beasts closed the gap on my gun line very quickly, probably because we were having a hard time aiming while being struck by lightning. After 10 minutes, all of my units were dead, except for a couple of heroes and a blimp which has 230 health. Kolek was still running around hammering my artillery crews into the ground, but eventually Balthazar Gelt killed him by transmuting his body into lead. The blimps may have also helped with this physical transformation. After leaving the battle, we were greeted.
He clutched that? He clutched it! That was insane!
With an ultimate victory screen. But
wait. Oh man, I didn't get to read it. Never mind.
By using trench warfare, chemical weapons, and generally unfair units, we were able to usher in an age of peace. Truly, the world can move forward and live in harmony. Wait, no. We still have unfinished business. In the end, perhaps I was the endgame crisis all along. Alright, big thank you to this month's patrons, and finally, thank you for watching. And also, thank you to War Thunder. You can check out the game using the link in the description or the pinned comment below to receive all this cool stuff. Alright, that's all. See you later.
Thank you for tuning in to another Neko. Do you play this game? How good is it, in your opinion? I I love the storytelling that Reggie gave. It was absolutely a 10 out of 10 experience for me to watch. I don't know if I'd be able to do it myself, though. Let me know in the comments below. Until then, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Matane! Bye-bye!